He rose from relative obscurity to become one of the most powerful men in England, a courtier, diplomat, military leader, and a lightning rod for controversy. George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, shaped the early Stuart period with charm, ambition, and political cunning. But who was this man behind the titles? And how did his rise and fall reflect the politics, personalities, and tensions of early 17th century England? This is the story of George Villiers, the King's favourite and one of the most controversial figures in British history. Born in 1592 in Leicestershire, George Villiers came from minor gentry. After the death of his father, his ambitious mother Mary ensured he was groomed for court life. She sent him to France to polish his manners, where he learned fencing, dancing, and courtly conversation. In 1614, at the age of 21, Villiers caught the eye of King James I during a hunt. His physical beauty and refined manners impressed the king, and his political patrons saw an opportunity to replace the aging and scandal-ridden Robert Carr, Earl of Somerset, as the king's favourite. Robert Carr, a handsome Scotsman of humble birth, first caught the king's attention around 1607 after falling from a horse during a jousting match. James, ever drawn to charm and beauty, took an immediate interest and swiftly elevated Carr to power. He was made Viscount Rochester, then Earl of Somerset. But Carr's rapid rise came with whispers of manipulation, vanity, and poor judgment. His closest advisor, Thomas Overbury, tried to steer him and was opposed to Carr's affair with the ambitious Francis Howard. When Overbury died in the Tower of London under mysterious circumstances, scandal erupted. It was revealed that Francis, with Carr's knowledge and perhaps his complicity, had poisoned Overbury to clear the path for marriage. In 1616, Carr and Francis were tried and imprisoned for the murder. Though both were eventually pardoned, Carr's fall was permanent. His glittering position was gone, and a void opened at court. Into that void stepped a new star, George Villiers. Younger, smarter, and far more politically savvy, Villiers learned from Carr's mistakes. Where Carr stumbled in scandal, Villiers would soar. With financial backing, Villiers was quickly elevated to the position of royal cupbearer, giving him regular, intimate access to the king. Villiers' rise was unprecedented. In 1615, he became Gentleman of the Bedchamber. The lords and gentlemen of the bedchamber held roles that were far more intimate than grand. Their original duties may seem humble by today's standards, helping the king dress, serving him at meals, guarding the entrance to his private rooms, and simply keeping him company. But in the world of royal politics, proximity was power. These men were among the few granted constant private access to the monarch. Over time, their ceremonial tasks faded, but their influence did not. Appointed directly by the crown through royal warrant, these positions were more than courtly favor, they were badges of trust. Those who held them often shaped policy, whispered advice, and became some of the most powerful figures behind the throne. It was this position that George held, and he soon rose to become a Viscount, a Knight of the Garter. By 1623, he held the title of Duke of Buckingham, an extraordinary ascent for someone without royal blood. These promotions were not just honorary. Buckingham held powerful court positions, including Master of the Horse and later Lord High Admiral. He also developed a close friendship with Prince Charles, tutoring him in dance and etiquette. Their bond would prove politically significant when Charles ascended the throne in 1625. George Villiers was not the first male favorite of James I, but he was the last, and the most influential. James showered him with affection and patronage. Their relationship sparked rumor, both at home and abroad, of romantic intimacy. James once declared, "I love the Duke of Buckingham more than any other man." He said, "Christ had his John, and I have my George." Letters between the two were deeply emotional and expressive, though historians debate whether their relationship was romantic, platonic, or a complex blend of the two. James once wrote, "I desire only to live in this world for your sake, and that I had rather live banished in any part of the earth with you than live a sorrowful widow's life without you. And so God bless you, my sweet child and wife, and grant that ye may ever be a comfort to your dear dad and husband." In 1617, Sir John Oglander observed, "I never saw a fond husband make so much or so great a dalliance over his beautiful spouse as I have seen King James over his favourites, especially the Duke of Buckingham." Whatever the nature of their relationship, it's clear that Buckingham's personal relationship with the king provided him extraordinary access to power and fueled resentment among courtiers and Parliament alike. Buckingham's power was not merely symbolic. He controlled royal patronage, influenced foreign policy, and placed allies in high office. His connection with Lord Chancellor Francis Bacon helped secure Bacon's rise, but when Bacon was later accused of corruption, Buckingham did not intervene, leading many to believe he sacrificed Bacon to protect himself. He also played a central role in Irish policy, managing land grants, titles, and the plantation system to enrich himself and his clients, decisions that had lasting consequences for Ireland. Behind the glamour, the gossip, and the grandeur of George Villiers stood a woman whose own life defied expectations. Lady Catherine Manners, one of the richest heiresses in England, and the woman who would become Duchess of Buckingham. Born in 1603 to Francis Manners, 6th Earl of Rutland, Catherine was raised in one of England's oldest and most noble Catholic families. Her beauty, wealth, and lineage made her one of the most sought-after women of her generation. But her Catholicism would become a point of controversy, especially when she caught the eye of the Protestant Villiers. Their courtship was not without drama. King James initially opposed the match on religious grounds, and Catherine's father, protective of his daughter's virtue and status, refused to allow her to convert or to marry a man whose reputation at court was already raising eyebrows. But fate intervened. During a visit to the Villiers estate, Catherine was forced to stay overnight at the estate, either due to illness or because of a storm. Whatever the cause, rumors began to swirl. Though nothing improper occurred, her honor was deemed compromised. In a move that combined chivalry with political calculation, Villiers quickly married her. The wedding, held in 1620, was a major social event. Catherine converted to Anglicanism, angering many Catholics and sacrificing ties with her family. But she and George reportedly shared genuine affection. She bore him several children, including their son George, who would become the second Duke of Buckingham. Despite her husband's fame and infamy, Catherine carved out a space of her own in society. George Villiers was appointed Lord Admiral and Foreign Policy Advisor. In this position, Buckingham led several disastrous military and diplomatic missions. In 1623, he accompanied Prince Charles to Spain to negotiate a marriage with the Infanta Maria. The talks collapsed, in part due to Buckingham's bad behavior, and public opinion turned against him. 2 years later, he helped arrange Prince Charles's marriage to Henrietta Maria of France, a Catholic princess, sparking further controversy. In 1625, he organized an expedition to attack the Spanish port of Cadiz. The poorly equipped, undisciplined troops failed miserably. Some even looted a wine warehouse and became too drunk to fight. In March of 1625, James was struck by ague, a recurring fever. As King James lay weakened by illness, one man rarely left his side, George Villiers, the Duke of Buckingham. The king's favorite and most trusted companion, Buckingham hovered constantly at the royal bedside, overseeing James's care. For a moment, it seemed James might rally, but when his condition worsened again, Buckingham took matters into his own hands. He summoned his personal physician and began administering his own remedies. Poultices were applied, and then, without consulting the royal doctors, Buckingham gave James a powerful cordial sed to revive the spirits. But James only grew sicker. Whispers began swirling. Had Buckingham poisoned the king? On March 25th, James suffered a stroke. Racked with severe dysentery and fading fast, he knew the end was near. 2 days later, he died, with Buckingham and his son Charles at his side. Charles was now King Charles I, and Buckingham, ever the survivor, was the only courtier to retain his power under the new monarch. But the shadow of suspicion never lifted. Had Buckingham killed the king, accidentally, or was it by design? Already despised for orchestrating Charles's controversial marriage to the Catholic Henrietta Maria of France and for meddling recklessly in foreign affairs, Buckingham's grip on power alarmed both Parliament and the people. Determined to remove him, Parliament launched an impeachment campaign. At the heart of the accusations was a stunning claim that Buckingham had deliberately poisoned James, perhaps even with Charles's knowledge. Charles responded by dissolving Parliament, fueling suspicions that the monarchy was protecting corruption. By 1628, Buckingham was widely despised. On August 23, 1628, while preparing yet another expedition to aid French Protestants, George Villiers was stabbed to death at the Greyhound Inn in Portsmouth by John Felton, a disgruntled army officer. Felton believed Buckingham was responsible for England's military failures and the nation's moral decay. Many celebrated Felton as a hero. Songs and poems praised him. Felton was executed for the murder, but even the display of Felton's body failed to quell public admiration. George Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, remains one of the most fascinating figures of the early modern period. His life raises enduring questions about power, loyalty, ambition, and the dangerous mix of politics and personal relationships. Was he a visionary statesman, a reckless opportunist, or simply a man who climbed too high, too fast, and fell just as dramatically? Whatever the truth, his legacy lives on, in history, in art, and in the imagination of a nation.